Good evening, everybody, and a very happy new year to you all. Welcome to the very first episode of Sunday Night Live in the year 2020. It's very exciting to finally be in a round number. I like round numbers, especially when you get two round numbers right next to each other. That's always, for me, very pleasing. I'm not a mathematician at all. I'm pretty awful at math, but I like it when we get round numbers. So, anyway, I thought I would say a very happy new year to everybody. I had a small gathering on my New Year's Eve show, my Hokmane show, which was very, very cool. We had lots of fun, and it was a good laugh, and there was lots of banter and lots of chat, and it was very, very cool. So, to those of you that came to that show, thank you very much. It was great fun. I was utterly exhausted, but it was great fun anyway. It was a good laugh. So thanks a lot, everybody. And so to kick things off this year, I thought that we would talk about audio New Year's resolutions. I don't like New Year's resolutions, but maybe New Year goals might be better. New Year goals. Do you have a goal to release new music this year? Do you have a goal to get new clients this year if you are working with clients? Or is there something particular with audio, with music making that you want to accomplish this year and what that might be? So maybe it's going to be something like, I just want to get a great sounding acoustic guitar recording. I've been trying my darndest the last year, but this year is the year I'm going to nail it. And if that's the case, let's talk about that. Let's talk about maybe what strategies you have to accomplish that. Or if it's, hey, I've never really properly understood compression, and this is the year I'm going to grasp it. I'm going to understand it, and I'm going to learn how to apply different compression techniques to my mixes and see the difference. Maybe that's you. Maybe those are the kind of things that you have planned for 2020. I've got a few. I've got a few plans for 2020. One of which, that's my phone, and I forgot to turn the darn thing off. Let's fix that before we go ahead. That's one of my friends who is quite seriously ill, and she's struggling. Poor thing. Yeah, she's having a really hard time at the moment, so I will be praying for her. She's been in and out of hospital. She probably won't be watching this, so kind of okay. I'm not going to mention her by name, but yeah, she's having a tough time, and she lives in Australia, so I'm really too far away to do anything, really, to be able to help her, apart from just be a support to her. But anyway, getting back to my New Year goals. One of my New Year goals is to release some new music this year, because I kind of did, but I kind of didn't. 2019, I was going to release a new EP. Well, I got about 2/3 of the way through recording writing and recording the new songs for my EP, but kind of things just got in the way, and I ended up having to put it slightly to one side. Some new and very exciting things happened towards the end of 2019, which I can't really talk very much about, unfortunately. It's kind of pretty top secret at the moment, but needless to say, it is very exciting, and it is a It's kind of like a new direction that I am going in, which is very exciting. And when I am allowed to talk about it, believe me, you guys will be knowing about it, because I probably won't stop talking about it once I'm allowed to. So that is very cool. So kind of with all of that happening, kind of recording my new EP kind of got a little bit sidetracked. However, I did release one new song this year, and that is a song called Dig Myself a Hole, which is on my Nimbit Music page. So if you went to nimbitmusic.com/Jonny Lipsham, you will find all my stuff. You'll find my EP from 2016, which is the last EP I did, and you will find a few single tracks there as well, including Dig Myself a Hole, which I put out this December, in fact. And that song was written for my new songwriting course, actually. So you can check out the song, you can go download it and listen to it, and then you can also buy the course if you want to, and kind of learn how I wrote that song and how I put it all together, because I did that for the course. So I thought it'd be quite cool just to, say, hey, that was the whole point of the course, was to write a song, show you my songwriting process, and then go ahead and release it to the world. Because that's the thing that a lot of people get held back by when it comes to their own music. Kind of, they keep it very much here, close to their chest, close to themselves. What if nobody likes it and all of that? Well, I've been there. I've been through that. I've spent a lot of years combating that. But so I did actually put a song out, but it wasn't the EP that was going to be. So hopefully 2020, I will get that EP finished and we'll get it released to the world, which would be awesome. So I'm going to have to carve some time into my schedule, my diary, to make sure that happens. And probably next week I will talk about when the release date is going to be, and then we'll schedule it back, and then you guys can hold me to account to make sure that I'm meeting those particular points for making sure that the EP rather gets released on time. So I will be looking to you guys for help for that. So Dig Myself a Hole. Kyle says I'll have to pay to have my hole dug. Yeah, this song is a satirical song. If you have been paying any attention to what's been going on in the UK politically, you will get the gag. You'll get the joke. It's a joke at our current Prime Minister's expense, that whole song. Because I like doing that kind of thing. I like writing satire. It's good fun. So yeah, that is one of my goals for 2020. I also have plans to release a couple of new courses as well. I've already put out a couple of new courses. As I said, I've put the songwriting one out. I've also put a music theory course out. Well, they're companions. They're part two to those two courses will be coming out in the springtime of 2020. So go and check out the two beginner courses to whet your appetite, ready for the next two courses that come out in the springtime. So I've got lots of stuff planned, really, for 2020 plus, supporting you guys technically, supporting you guys musically, and hopefully as a friend as well. So there's lots going on for 2020. So let's go and look over at the chat and see who is here. I'm having to use my laptop again, and I'll explain why in just a second. So the reason why I'm having to use my laptop to do Google Chrome and everything at the moment, because I had kind of gone back to using my main computer to do it. Well, put it this way, my computer at the moment is kind of struggling. I think I mentioned a while back that the computer would crash. It would shut itself off and restart. And it done that maybe 2 or 3 times. Well, today it did that twice, and then Windows failed to start, which was a new one. Now the computer is Yeah, probably 6 years old because I got it in November 2014. So it's elderly and it's probably getting a little bit senile. So I'm having to think about not only upgrading to Windows 10 because I'm still on Windows 7 and Windows 7 goes in a couple of weeks. And I was just thinking, okay, my expense really is just going to be getting Windows 10. And I wanted to get Windows 10 Pro because with Windows 10 Pro, you have much more control over Windows updates and when your computer downloads them and when your computer installs them and how and all of that. So that's why I wanted to do that, is spend just a little bit of extra money to do that, to have that much more control rather than it just deciding it's going to do it one day. And I could be in the middle of a show and it'll go, right, we're downloading the next update. And I really don't want that. I've heard too many bad stories about people who've had Windows 10 kind of just start doing something right in the middle of something they're doing and it messes everything up and it takes them about 3 days to get everything straightened out again. Well, I can't really afford that because, I run a professional business here. So I can't afford like 2 or 3 days. So yes, that's what I was thinking of doing, but it looks like it's entirely possible I might have to do something I can't really afford, which is to get a new computer. So I'm weighing up options. I know that among you guys there are some computer experts who know what they're talking about as well. So your input would be appreciated as well. So yes, that's kind of why I'm having to look over here for the chat. So who do we have? Mika was first in the door. I presume he was first in the door because he couldn't stick around. And he says, I hope your New Year hangovers are all done for. Just wanted to wish you and your musical and educational endeavors all the best this year. Many cheers, which is very kind of him to say so. So I assumed that he popped in basically just to post something because he couldn't stick around. Thank you, Mika. I hope you're watching this on the replay, and if you are, thank you. Ken Moss is here, and Tony Stringert is here as well. You guys were early doors, and James Gio, of course, early doors as well. So you guys were pretty much first in the door, which is great. I love it when, and Bobby Booth as well was in the door early. I love it when you guys turn up early. It's very cool because it means you guys get to chat amongst yourselves before the show starts, which is great. Thomas is here as well. You guys are talking about something I know nothing about. Carl's talking about a friend of his who died, which I may have missed. I need to go back and look, because I'm just kind of scrolling through to catch up. Yeah, Carl says, one of my friends from the local open mic circuit passed away today after a brave battle with pancreatic cancer. A plunker on guitar to be sure, but a great poet-songwriter. Well, I'm very sorry to hear that, Kyle. You and I, my friend, we are brothers in grief at the moment. And some of you may know about this as well because I posted in most of the Personas groups about this, but just the other day, Derek Jones, who was a very good, very dear friend of mine, who was a Personas beta tester and was very, very instrumental in the development of the Personas' notation software Notion. He's been a really, really big part in making that happen and developing it and helping the development team take that forward with some really brilliant ideas, because boy did he know what he was doing. He was a real expert at composing and using notation software and developing rules for using software instrument libraries and Notion. He was a big, big part of all of that. But he was also a very dear friend of mine. So he died just on I think the early hours of January 3rd. So just inside 2020 he died. I don't know what he died of, unfortunately. He was a very private guy. I didn't even know he was ill, but I mean, the last time I spoke to him was just before Christmas. And we had a great chat, but, you know, I had no idea he was unwell, but he kind of allowed me to kind of ramble on about my ailments, and I had no idea. But apparently it was pretty sudden, so a big shock to everybody, especially, you know, to people that knew him well. You know, because like I say, I'd only been speaking to him, you know, kind of like 2 days before Christmas. And then I found out from a mutual friend of ours that he died. So, Kyle, you and I are brothers in grief, my friend. I know how you feel. I know what you're going through. So, you know, definitely feel free to reach out to me if you need to. I'd be happy to support you and stand with you. And you guys are talking about Curiosity Stream. I don't know what the heck that is. Don Hamer is here. He says, great catching up, brother. Yeah, Don and I go back a few years, actually. He's a good guy, and he's a good friend of mine, and he and I enjoyed a very nice Skype call last night, which was great. We had a really good catch-up and a good chat, and he has a new house and a new studio, so he was wanting to kind of like test all his connections out, and it was great. We had a great chat, so thank you, Don, for the great chat. Appreciate it very much. Let's see. Let's go down and see what else we've got going on here. Thomas, as I say, is here. Deer Creek is here as well. He says upgrade to... Maybe. Who knows? I don't know. And even if I did, I couldn't tell you. So, you never know. Possibly. I'm not going to say any more about that. Let's see. Sean Aaron says, my goal is to be fluent with the Studio Live Series 324 and using the capturing to an SD card. That's a great goal to have, actually. The Studio Live consoles are awesome. They are really, really good, especially the newer ones, the newer models that fit inside the same chassis pretty much as the original Studio Live Series 3 mixers. They are really, really great pieces of kit and very powerful. They do take a little bit of getting your head around how all the flex mixes and aux mixes and all of those kind of things work, and all of the routing, how that works. Takes a little bit getting your head round, but once you've got your head round how it works, it's pretty cool to use. And recording to the SD card, I've not done it yet myself, but apparently it's actually pretty straightforward. It's not too complex, and it records to a capture session, which you can then bring into Studio One for mixing, which is very, very cool. So that is a great one. Just Bob says, I'm going to try and learn the notes on my guitar fretboard and try and learn to read music. Well, that is awesome. Actually, those are really, really cool goals to have. Learning to read music is a good one because it helps you to be extra versatile. Because it means, you know, if somebody says, hey, I've got this guitar part, but I need it played kind of note for note, you know. Now, somebody could sing you the guitar part and then you'd have to learn it by ear, or somebody could sit with you and kind of play it to you and you could watch their finger positions and learn it that way. But that takes up quite a bit of time. And, you know, in a lot of studio situations, time is money, essentially. And so, you know, the best way to be able to get through a studio session and actually to build a good reputation as a musician is being able to read music. It's such a handy tool to have. I'm so glad that I learned, albeit I learned very late in life, mostly because, you know, I have pretty much perfect pitch. From that point of view, I don't really need, and I have a very, very, very good memory, so I don't really need to learn to read music. I never really needed to, you know, because if somebody just ran down the tune for me once, it's in my memory, I can play it. Even if they made mistakes in playing it to me, I would play it with their mistakes. So I never really needed to read music from that point of view. But I'm very glad I did, because it does save a lot of time. It means that somebody doesn't have to run down the tune for me. I can play it. it's there. I play through a couple of times on my bass or at the piano, and after 2 or 3 run throughs, I've got it, and that saves a lot of time. So reading music is great. Knowing where you are on the whole fingerboard from first position to last position is really, really great to do, because it means that those are your rudiments. It's like a drummer and drum rudiments. There are 42 drum rudiments, I think there are, and knowing them all is really, really helpful, because it means you can execute different things around the drum set. In much the same way, knowing a whole bunch of other chords means you can play in any key without having to use a capo. Capo, whatever you say. That's going to save you a lot of time as well. Knowing all of those chords, knowing different key signatures, knowing how different chord shapes work, right from first to last position. Really handy, going to make you a very versatile guitar player. So I like that. James says, Australia's not good at the moment. I live in Victoria. Sorry for your friend. Lots of smoke. Yes, James. I have friends in the Victoria area, but I also have friends in New South Wales as well, and I have relatives right in the heart of Melbourne as well. And they have been keeping me very abreast of what things are like in Australia at the moment. It's pretty horrific. It's pretty awful, pretty horrendous, and very, very dangerous. So we are very, very much standing with you. Personally, I am standing with you, as I say, because I have family and friends over in Australia and relatives. So we definitely, as a group here on the show tonight, we stand with all of our Australian friends and family. And we are praying for you, and we are praying that the temperature cools down, and we're praying for rain, because that's what you guys need. You guys need an abundance of rain to help put out the fires. So I pray that comes for you guys. And the losses are devastating, not just to property, but to the environment, and people's lives as well, and people's livelihoods. Let's see. Deer Creek says, take up the hems in all my kilts. You're funny. David SJ is here. He says, in 2020, I'd like to start getting paid for mixes, and I'd like to spend a lot more time playing guitar. Well, those are awesome goals to have. So now that you guys have talked a little bit about your goals, what you'd like to achieve, the next thing really is to kind of like, now that you've got a goal, is to set it in stone. Have it in your calendar. When are you going to have that thing achieved by? How are you going to go about having it achieved? Now, certainly in terms of being paid for mixes, well, there is a lot of people talk about having a period where you work for free so you can build up a body of work. Am I a bit quiet? I'm just looking at my OBS, and it kind of looks like I'm a little bit on the quiet side. I'll turn up a bit. Maybe that's too loud now. Yes, so building up a body of work is a very, very important thing to do. And then once you have that body of work, is then being able to use that to kind of get people interested in what you do, get people interested in your skills, and showing what you can do in a variety of different genres and styles and mixing contexts is pretty important as well. And then, of course, thinking about how much your time, as much as your talent, how much your time is worth. How much is it worth? What does it take to keep the lights on? What does it take to keep power coming into your computer? How much does that cost? How much is your time worth? Is your time valuable to you? Is your time, your time and your expertise and all of your training and development, is that valuable? How valuable is that? And then factor into that your experience. How many mixes do you have under your belt? And factor those things in, and then you should be able to arrive at a price. Look at what other people are charging near and around you, and if you maybe hit around the same kind of price or a little bit under, it's not a bad thing to do that. And then the next thing I'd say is raise your prices regularly. I do that every year. Like 10 years ago, I was charging $50 for a mix. And now I charge $350. So, I've been raising my rates every year. So, that's, you have to factor in how much you grow and how much you develop over time, and factor that into your pricing strategy. And then, of course, if you price yourself too low, the problem is that you can attract the wrong kind of clients. And then you're kind of stuck, because those are the only clients that are actually paying you money. And so therefore you feel like you don't want to lose them because they're the only ones that are paying you money. You can get stuck doing that if you're not careful. So, you have to be ruthless. And if that means that by raising your rates after a couple of years or even after a year, just raising them a little bit, if that spooks that client, then that should tell you what they think you are worth to them, how valuable you are to them. It may well be that they think, hey, this is just great. I'm getting this really fantastic service, these great mixes for tiny amounts of money. And they'll be thinking, hey, this is a great deal. This is a great deal. I hardly have to pay any money to this guy. And he does these wonderful mixes. And, you go, oh, okay, it's now $20 more per song. And if this guy then goes, oh, well, no, I'm not going to pay that, then you know that's the kind of clientele you want to lose. And you have to be bold, you have to be brave, and, you have to, have some confidence, have some faith, have some trust that you'll be able to attract the right kind of clients as you put your fees up. So it's a difficult one. I don't deny that at all. Lollipop Gill says, dig myself a hole sounds like a good New Year's goal. That's really, really good. That's really funny. Especially in the context of why I wrote that song. That's really good. Let's see. Deer Creek says, I brought a new Gretsch in 2020 to use in my praise team. Killer with the Helix. Awesome. Is that the guitar that you've been showing off in your videos recently? Chris, I wonder. Mika says, I'm actually considering selling my SSL and moving to an API, the Box 2. I want to go more module. It'll be hard to separate from the SSL. Bus compressor. But change is good, and it's a big move for me. You know what? Ron and Chris Murphy, not that long ago, did exactly that. He got rid of his console. I think he had an SSL. I think he did. But he certainly got rid of his and went to kind of a, like you, kind of a bit more of a modular system, which meant that he had a lot more flexibility with how his control room was used. Especially as he's doing a lot more teaching and stuff in his control room. It meant that he had more room for people to be able to come in and stuff. And also recall was he said that was the biggest reason for him getting rid of his SSL, because recall is just a pain in the butt on an analog console, because you have to have like note paper and what have you, and track lists, and so you know where everything should be positioned, and then you have to go and dial everything in, and that that can take a long time. And then it's just like, that's just to turn the lead guitar up like 2 dB, or roll off a little less high pass filter on that electric guitar, and then you print the mix again, and it's just like, okay, that took however long it takes to dial in an SSL console from start to finish just to make that one tweak. Is that really worth it? No, I think probably not. But and then there's the maintenance of the console. I love SSL consoles. I mean, that's where I started. I started on SSL consoles way, way, way back. That's where I sat down with an assistant engineer and said, right, teach me how this thing works. I was a kid. I was, 10, 11 years old. And my dad used to be house drummer at this particular studio. And my parents were session musicians in the 70s and 80s. And so I basically said, teach me how this thing works. Teach me how to make these beautiful sounds come out the speakers. And that was it for me, really. And now I have this SSL. No, I don't have this SSL at all. I have this Studio Live Series 3 16-channel mixer in front of me, and it's great. I just hit the door button and call up a mix, and, it's dead easy to change something. So that's a big one, Mika. I realize how massive that is for you. Let's see. Let's go down a bit more. I think I'm near the end. Chris says, caution on important documents. Oh, crikey, the chat just suddenly updated. Like Billy-o. I was just about to read something that Chris wrote, and it's disappeared. I'm not sure I'm going to find it now. But anyway, he said something about writing something. Writing the date right, I think. Woodbeast is here, which is awesome. Wretched Gretchen, I think you're new. He says, buy a Windows 10 OEM key for $20. For £20. For professional. I did 2 years ago and still going strong. Online plenty sites. Yeah, I will certainly look into that. Lollipop Kill says, I'm happy to report my sound issues were resolved with a Windows reinstall. Oh, wow. That's a big thing. Deer Creek says, you can schedule Windows 10 updates when you want them. Like when you're done for the day. Oh, that's good, because one of the big things I saw early on with Windows 10 updates, particularly with Windows 10 Home, was it would just do it, and there wasn't really a lot you could do about it. So I hope that they change that. Mike Neighbor is here. He says, only had one problem with Windows 10 updates. Oh yeah, I remember that one. Wow, I love it when the chat just suddenly updates and about 20 flipping messages just suddenly appear. James R says, I'm staying with Windows 7 until it drops. Not worried about updates. I turned them off a long time ago. Yeah, that is certainly something that one can do. I wouldn't recommend it for a variety of reasons. Unless your computer is completely offline, then you're probably okay. But if your computer is online for anything, it's definitely vulnerable to a lot of different things. So I will be upgrading. For a variety of reasons, I'll be upgrading. Not least of which, Studio One 4.6 is the last version of Studio One that will be supported on Windows 7. Everything that comes after this will not be. So 4.7, 4.8, whatever comes next, will not be supported on Windows 7. So it won't work. Fundamentally is what I'm saying. So if you want to stay up to date with Studio One, you need to move over to Windows 10. Because PreSonus will not be supporting Windows 7 after it goes end of life. Just so you know. Let's see. Mika says, I just fitted my Macs with some new Thunderbolt ports, drives rather, installed in external adapters. Wow, awesome. I wish I knew how to do such things. I pretty much know nothing about computers. I'll tell you that much. Carl says, I have to get my son's new PC running, then look at a new one for me. Yeah, PCs can be pretty expensive, especially for a good one for doing audio and for doing video, like these live streams. I mean, the computer I have now, I've had for 6 years, and the thing with this computer is that I bought it as an audio computer. I got it from scancomputers.co.uk, scan.co.uk. They're a UK computer manufacturing company. They build pro gaming computers. They build pro video editing computers. They build pro audio computers. That's kind of what they do. They're not like off-the-shelf computers. They are professionally built, spec'd out machines. But anyway, that I got this as an audio computer because, back when I got it in 2014, I really was not even thinking remotely about doing live streams or making tutorial videos. None of that had really occurred to me until maybe kind of like the end of kind of the middle of 2015. And that's kind of when I kind of thought, hey, maybe I could do this. And I really, the person that's responsible for getting me into streaming and making videos is Jonny Gibe. It's his fault, so blame him. So really, this machine is not really designed for what I'm using it for anymore. So yeah, I'm probably going to have to think about a new machine sooner than going up to Windows 10. But unfortunately, I can't afford to get a new machine. Because, it's like £1,000 for something like what I need. At least £1,000. So, yeah, it's a tough one. James says, thanks for the kind words regarding Melbourne. You're a good guy. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Yeah, it's tough because, I have so many friends and family in Australia. And it's great when England are playing Australia in the cricket because the rivalry and the banter is just awesome. It is first class. The conversations that flow between us here in the UK and relatives and friends down in Australia, it's so much fun. We bash a little bit both sides, but it's all in good nature. It's all good fun. But yeah, it's very sad what's happening there right now. And yeah, you guys are talking about, Kyle is talking about going to the Cambridge MT site and downloading stuff to practice on. Mike Neighbor says, running a music business is a pain in the ass. Well, you know what? I've been running a music business since 1997. And yes, it is a pain in the ass, but it comes with a whole bunch of benefits as well. Not only am I my own boss and I get to decide when I work and when I don't work, but I also get to decide how long I work for and when I stop. Nobody is telling me, hey, you have to work until X time and then you can go home. Well, I work at home and have done since 1997 or so. There was a period of a few years where I actually went to a studio to work. But for the most part, or several studios actually, between 98 and 2001, I went to several studios to work every day. But, since about 2001, I've had my own studio in my own room, in my own house, or, shared accommodation. I've always had a bedroom studio or something like that. This is probably the biggest studio space that I've had in all that time. But yes, I have run my own business since 1997. And yeah, it's got its ups and downs. It's got its difficulties. You have to chase people for money sometimes. That's no fun. But... And you have to be ruthless as well. You really have to be tough. You have to be ruthless, and you have to have a very thick skin. And you have to be able to take it when people say you're no good. And they will. And they do. I get it regularly. People saying, no, you were crap. I gave the job to some other engineer. It happens. And yet you just have to take it, and you have to say, okay, well, what was it? What was it? Let's talk details here. What was it about the mix that you didn't like and make you want to give the job to somebody else? And then, once I get that information out of them, that gives me something to work with. I can take that forward to the next person I work with, the next client that I have. So, when people say you're crap, get them to give you some detail. Okay, what is it that was crap? What is it that doesn't work for you? And then the information they give you is gold. It is something you can invest in making yourself a better engineer. Rather than saying, well, to you or whatever. So, yes, it is a pain in the arse. Woodby says, charge what you think you deserve. Absolutely. Totally agree with that, Woodby. Totally agree with that. Let's see. Lollipop Gill says, I would also recommend waiting until you're booked full before raising your prices. Otherwise, you can lose valuable clients and have to rebuild with a higher bar. Yeah, I've never actually experienced having to do that. And I raise my prices a little bit every year. Only a little bit. It's not like I'm jumping up $100 every year or anything like that, because that would be stupid. I agree. I put them up maybe by $10, $15 every year, or £10, £15 every year. Just because, hey, things get more expensive. Our gas bill and electricity bill went up at the start of the year. I have to factor that into how much money I make. Otherwise, my profit margin gets squeezed. I have to think about all those kind of things. So that's why I raise my prices every year. Just a bit. I'm not raising it loads, just a wee bit. But you're right, yes. I don't, I would never raise them drastically, because that is just plain daft. Bobby Boothers here says, I've been mixing for 6 years and still learning. Like this past month is my first jazz song. Need to do more. Bobby, your mix was actually really good. I heard that mix. I was on the Mixing Made Easy coaching call. If you're not a member of Mixing Made Easy, go and sign up today. Go do it now. It's a really great community, really great place, and you get to mix a whole bunch of different songs in different styles, and just doing that every month, every year, will make you a way better mix engineer. Because you will have experienced all sorts of different genres, all sorts of different styles, all sorts of different mixing obstacles and problems to overcome. So it's really great. And, this was this was a big band Christmas song that we did this month. I do a lot of jazz mixing. So, and actually, as it happened, because of doing choir stuff and working on a film in the run-up to Christmas, I didn't have time to do the mix. But I know Bobby did a really great mix, considering it's not really his thing. He's not really done it before. And he's got some things from the coaching call to take away and work on and improve, so that, his jazz mixing chops get a lot better. But that was a really great effort. And I say that as somebody that has mixed a lot of jazz for a lot of years. So well done, Bobby. Let's see. Chris says, that's my 65 Guild Starfire 3. Gretsch yet to make more vids. Okay, cool. Let's see. Yeah, Gretsch make nice instruments. They make wonderful drums. I love Gretsch drums. Lollipop says, get your bookings full before raising rates if using the second startup method. Okay. She says you can start out with your target rate as your standard rate and offer discounts to attract new people. That's one way to start out. Yes. The other is to haggle for the first customers and build slowly. That's true. Yep, I've been selling my skills for money for well over 20 years. And, those are definitely two really good ways to get started doing it. For certain. I agree with that. Mike's out, unfortunately. Mike, have a good night, buddy. Thank you for coming on the show. Let's see. Mika says, very nice story about your intro to SSL mixers. Mine was at Criteria while I was going to school. University of Miami used MCIs And 24 track tape. Yeah, we had 24 track tape machines as well. I'm trying to remember what the models were back then that we had. I mean, we're talking 19. Gosh, we're talking like 1985, 80. Yeah, 1984, 85, and I can't remember what the tape machines were, but they were 24 track tape machines. I remember that for sure. And I loved. It was an SSL. Pretty sure it was the E4000 that we had at that studio where my parents worked a lot. In fact, one of my dad's friends actually owned and ran that studio, so it was his place. Guy called Nigel Stonia. He's a terrific producer, and he's won lots of awards. He's won Grammys and all sorts now. But back then he was well known for doing TV and radio commercials and that kind of stuff. That was a lot of what his studio did. But yeah, I remember that console very, very much, and I just loved being there when my parents were there. On the weekends, I'd go and I'd just talk to the engineers, and they would teach me. And they were. I was only like 11 years old, and they were letting me help them with the automation, helping them with the mixing. It was great fun. Loved it, and I was hooked. I was absolutely hooked on mixing from that day, really. Deer Creek says, I'm self-employed. Raising hourly rates doesn't really make you more dollars. In some occupations, if you charge by the job or quote a project, you can make much more than an hourly rate. Absolutely right. And that is why I don't charge an hourly rate. Except for some services that I provide. But mixing, mastering, that's all per project. But things like session work, I charge the Musicians Union standard rates, which is an hourly rate. And those are kind of like their basic rates. I charge Musicians Union plus a little bit. So yeah, that's for my session fees. So that's an hourly rate. And instrumental instruction, that's an hourly rate. What else do I do that's an hourly rate? Mix critiques and things like that is kind of like, and one-on-one training that I do via Skype. You can book me for an hour to do a session on Skype to really, really dial in on specific issues that I can't cover in a tutorial video. I do that for people as well, and that's a fixed hourly rate as well. But yes, I agree with that. Deer Creek says, mine was a black-faced MCI with matching 8-track. Oh, cool. And that was at Berkeley in the 70s. Awesome. Let's see. Just Bob says, some EQs have EQ left and right separately. Do any of the EQs PreSonus has as stock plugins do that? I looked briefly today and didn't see that option. Is that correct? The Pro EQ is it's kind of both mono and stereo in as much as if you put it on a stereo track, any EQ moves will be balanced between left and right. If you put it on a mono track, it's obviously going to behave mono. But yes, the Pro EQ doesn't necessarily do different EQ for left or a different EQ for right. Doesn't quite do that. However, you can use the splitter tool to accomplish that, and I have a video coming out next week that will go into frequency splits and how you can use the splitter to EQ the left side and the right side separately. And in fact, you can do mid-side processing using the splitter function as well. So I've got videos on the splitter tool coming out over the next couple of weeks. So watch out for those. But yes, the Pro EQ doesn't do what you're talking about. You can't EQ just the left and the right separately. George Mateus says, how do you print a song with lyrics, songs, and chord notations? Do you have to have particular software to do this? Yes, you do. Personas have a piece of software called Notion that will do all of that. It will do lead sheets, it will do full orchestrations, it will do brass bands, it will do choral arrangements, it will do all of that, and you can put in chord symbols, you can put in lyrics, you can have piano and vocals with the lyrics underneath, and you can have chord changes above the piano part and suggest chord voicings for your piano player as well. You can do all of that in Persona's Notion. And if you have Studio One for Professional, you can, I think there is, or at least there certainly was, go and check the Persona shop first, but there certainly was a discount available for you for Notion if you have Studio One Professional. And I would say that is worth getting. Just Bob says, when I worked for myself, I hated the boss, but loved the hours. Yes. Do you have to pay taxes? Yes. Yes, if you're self-employed, you have to pay taxes. I don't have to pay. I don't have to pay what we call in the UK. We don't have to pay VAT. I don't know what it is you call it in the United States or anywhere else in the world, but here we have something called VAT. What does VAT stand for? VAT stands for Value Added Tax. Now, if you have, as a business, a turnover over a certain amount of money, you cross a certain threshold, and that is your turnover crosses that particular threshold, then you have to pay VAT on all of your sales. If you are under that, you don't have to even go and register for that. You don't have to pay it. And I have never had to pay VAT. The more cynical amongst us would call VAT vague additions to the total, because that's pretty much what it looks like. It's basically 20% at the moment, I think it is. If for a while it was 18.5%, which made the math wonky, to say the least. So I'm glad they made it a round number. Would have been nice if they rounded it down to, 18. They could have done that, but they didn't. 10% would have been nice, but no, they had to make it 20% instead. So basically what that means is you add 20% on top of whatever the buyer pays ultimately. And that's how that works. So when you go to a record store, for example, HMV doesn't really exist anymore, unfortunately, but back in the day when it did, and you could go to a record store, you could go to HMV, you could go and buy a vinyl record. When you bought your vinyl record, you would look at your sales receipt and it would tell you, here's the price, let's say £9, for example, plus VAT, and it would be 20%, and that would be added to the total. So it'd be £9 and whatever that 20% was. And that's what you pay. And then those 20%, the business would then have to pay to the government. And that's how that works. But I don't have to do any of that stuff, which is good. Deer Creek says, and some dog stuff is a write-off as they protect my boatyard. Good thinking. Good thinking. I wonder if my parents' dog counts, even though they are across the way in Fife. I'll have to ask. Deer Creek says, almost all wholesalers charge sales tax now, at least in my business. Yes, I think that's quite correct. My liability insurance is extremely expensive. Working on marinas on $500,000 boats. I can imagine it would be. Lollipop Girl says, no service taxes in the US, not yet. It gets on the table from time to time, but never passes. Yeah, I have heard that. Mika says, I have to pay corporate tax on my business. Pay all my corporate FICA, which is federal withholding for Social Security, workman's etc., etc. Then I pay my personal income taxes, including my personal FICA. Good grief. I thought our tax system was overly complicated. And now I find out about the US tax system. It's ridiculously overly complicated. I thought ours was horrendous. You know, tax should be simple, and yet it isn't. But you know, like I said last time, we're not going to get political, but still. Let's see. Woodby says, I had a 27-foot Trojan a few years ago. Good grief. A 27-foot Trojan. You're talking computer viruses. No, obviously you're not. You're talking about a boat. I'm kidding. So, good grief. The time has flown by, and we are at almost 1 a.m. here in Edinburgh, Scotland, which currently is the capital of the universe. So, Lollipop Girl says, Mika just gave you the federal tax rundown. There are state tax that's just as bad. Yes. See, that's the thing, because you guys pay. I'm assuming from that information, therefore, correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm assuming from that information that you pay state tax and then national tax, which I guess is federal tax, right? Because the United States is a federal union. I think I'm correct. From memory, I think that's how it works. In the UK, we are not a federal union. We are a monarchical union of 4 nations, the UK. Well, it's 2 nations, really, England and Scotland. And then Wales is a principality of England. So Wales technically belongs to England. And then Northern Ireland is a province of the United Kingdom. So, yeah, the UK is a little bit complicated. But you know, by and large these days we refer to the constituent parts of the UK as the 4 home nations, which I like that. I like that. But yes, they are in some ways separate nations, and in another respect, we are all part of one union. But I'm pretty sure that after the Scottish independence referendum in 2014, which an independence was soundly rejected, the people deciding that actually we want to remain part of the United Kingdom, and then of course we've just had Brexit in 2016, and looks like that's all. You know, we are actually going to leave the European Union. I am fairly confident that the direction the United Kingdom is going to be going in the next 5 to 10 years, I think will end with some kind of federal union. So we will remain a United Kingdom, but it will be a federal union. So there'll be a lot more power to the 4 home nations individually to govern themselves while still relating to a central federation. I think that's probably where it's going to go. But that's a whole nother subject for a completely different live stream, and probably not on this channel. But there you go. Mika says pretty much all of American systems are full of bureaucracy. Yes, I know that. You know why that is? You know why America has so much bureaucracy? It's because we gave it to you. There you go. We gave you bureaucracy, and you thought, hey, that's a great idea. We'll take that. We'll run with it. And run with it you did. Let's see. I'm getting political, and I really shouldn't. John Lake says, simple tax. How much did you make? Send it in. Yep. It should be as simple as the government takes, I don't know, 25%. Now, obviously, the problem with simple tax, here's the big problem with simple tax, is that some people earn massive amounts of money every year. And some people earn very little every year. So to the person that earns very little, 25% is massive. But to the person who earns huge, massive amounts of money, 25% is loose change. So from that point of view, it kind of isn't really necessarily that fair to just have, hey, we have one fixed tax threshold. As soon as you cross that threshold, you are taxed at 25% or whatever. It makes things a lot simpler, but don't think it makes things necessarily fairer. I think the bigger problem is that we have corporations that earn multiple billions of pounds and billions of dollars, and they get away with paying no tax. And yet the taxman comes down on the little guys, the little earners, and say, hey, you avoided your tax. You should not have avoided your tax. We shall make you pay. We shall put you in prison. And then to the nice big corporation, they say, that's fine, no problem. It's okay. We'll just turn the other way. Yeah. Yeah. Capitalism in that respect does not work. But anyway, we are getting into politics, and I'm not doing it. Not doing it. I'm going to end the show right there before we slide any further into something that people are going to hate me for, because I'm a socialist, and socialists are not popular, and I am definitely one. So I will see you all hopefully next week. It depends upon my computer. If my computer is working, we will do a show next week. I hope that it is, because I'm a little bit scared, to be honest, because it has been so reliable these last 6 years, and if today is anything to go by, it's not really reliable anymore, and I can't afford to replace it. That's the bigger problem. So I'm going to have to give that some thought, and I don't quite know what I'm going to do with that, but there we go. JL, if you'd invented Windows 10, would you share that income? Yes, I would. Absolutely, I would. If I invented something that was going to do good for everybody, like Tim Berners-Lee did when he invented the internet, and he basically said, here, it's my gift to the world. Because it's going to do everybody good. Yes, I would do that. If I invented something that awesome that is going to bless every single person on the planet, I'd give it away for free. I would. I absolutely would. So there you go. Even if it kills me, I would do it. Dear Creek says, you'd love the speed of a new computer business expense. Yes, I know it would be a business expense. It's just kind of the upfront cost I don't have. That's the problem. Because we'd be talking £1,000 here. So that's my problem at the moment. And as Deer Creek correctly points out, socialism pays for police and roads and hospitals and everything else. Yes, certainly in the UK it pays for hospitals. Not quite so sure in the United States. But anyway, there we go. That is the end of the show, folks. Thank you very much. And I'm very glad to have had you all on the show tonight. We had a good chat. All round, and I have no idea how many people we've had here. It doesn't look like we've had very many. Certainly since we started talking politics, it's dropped right off. But we peaked at 25, I think, and people are kind of walking out the door now because it's kind of getting late, and I have waffled on too much about politics. But really, I was wanting to address things like tax and, from the business point of view, especially for those of you that are actually thinking about having your own mixing business. It's important that you get your heads around that kind of stuff. I find it really hard because, I'm mathematically illiterate, so I have to have somebody else do it because I just can't. Because I'll get it wrong, and I know what our government is like. They will make me pay for getting it wrong. So even if I get it wrong in their favor, they will still make me pay. So anyway, thank you everybody for a fantastic show. And I will see you hopefully next week. And hopefully I will have successfully upgraded my machine to Windows 10 and everything will be working fine. I'll keep you posted. If you are a subscriber to my channel, keep your ears... No, don't keep your ears. Keep your eyes out on the community tab because I'll post there in the first instance And if you're on Facebook and you're in the Personas groups, I will post there as well and let you know kind of what's going on. If for whatever reason we can't do the show like we normally do it with OBS and this computer, I do have the laptop here and we'll try and do it on here. So either way, we'll try and get a show done until I get this darn computer thing sorted out. So until then, folks, I will bid you a very good night, and I will see you all on Wednesday for Songwriting Simplified with Jonny over on his channel. So good night, everybody. Good night, everybody.